Now we can see y'all. That's great. So tell us how you're doing.
Pretty good. Still improving slowly.
That's awesome. What kind of improvements have
Literally
you
kind of like
seen?
the race between the tortoise and the hare. Like tortoise right now, but hopeful.
Hopeful. That's awesome. Boys, what have you seen changes in your dad?
Well, he hasn't been as reactive.
Oh, really? So what does that mean? Like, what's the differences?
There used to be a lot of small things happening. He used to get like really reactive and stuff like stuff like that. It hasn't been happening as much or at all anymore. Then
Wow,
then
that's amazing.
and saying yes more. Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah,
For us.
I'll actually say yes and go, did I just say yes to that? Yeah.
I love it. Carice, how about for you? What's been a big change for you?
He just generally, it's just at the bottom of my notes I wrote, is he just seemed like a really tightly wound spring before, and he just is unwinding and relaxing and yeah, and just the words out of his mouth are with more hope. Like he still sees an issue here or there, but he feels more hopeful that it can change and that it will. And yeah.
That's great. How has your relationship improved with you and Jim?
Um, so as I'm sure you guys like talk with other people and their families, it can be like walking around on eggshells, and that can have a lot of implications in the relationship. I feel more relaxed. He feels more like an emotionally safe person than before. Um, I feel like he's more able to see things from our perspectives than before. And that's been very helpful.
That's awesome. Jim, how does that make you feel to hear that from your family?
Just it's what I've always wanted. So it's nice. Very peaceful. I think our home, our God's feels like God's restoring I don't know, the word homeostasis comes to mind, but I know that's not it. But it's like just a like a more even keel. When she read the last thing on her notes that she wrote down, said like a something tightly wound, unwinding. I literally just laughed out loud. Like, wow, yeah, that's exactly what it feels like.
That's awesome. So you're slowly starting to like become not so tight, huh?
Yeah, he's ventured out of the house a few times to a store during the day on his own.
Social anxiety was,
Kind of
was
like, woo.
huge.
Yeah.
I was like shocked because Daddy hasn't been out for a long time by himself or with us very often.
Wow. So that's interesting. You know, my son-in-law, I don't know if I told you, but also had huge social anxiety, wouldn't go to the store, wouldn't do anything. And the day he got the first side done was 2 days before Christmas or 3 days before Christmas. We were at a Macy's. So you can imagine how chaotic a Macy's was 3 days before Christmas. And we were walking through and we turned around and said, "Are you okay?" Like, we didn't even think about the fact that we were going to a mall. We were just like, after the treatment. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Why?" And he's like, we're like, "Because you're in a mall." And he's like, "Oh, I didn't even realize that I had done that." So it's great to hear you having kind of the same feeling. So what is it like to be able to go into a store or go out shopping and not feel that level of anxiousness?
I mean, I still feel it around certain groups of people, but generally, like I went and had breakfast with one of my friends today, and it didn't even cross my mind one time. In other instances with specific people, it's still a little nerve-wracking, so to speak, but I feel like it's all just lightening over time.
And so right now, are you 2 weeks post-treatment or 3?
Three.
It was the what was the date?
The week of
27th.
Yeah, it's the week of Memorial Day.
27th. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're 3 weeks post-treatment. That's awesome. And so outside of the social anxiety that you had, I know you were not sleeping real well, right?
Yeah.
Is that improved at all?
The best part is I'm able to go to sleep earlier and stay asleep the whole night, which was like unheard of. I had wicked insomnia forever. I mean, so that it did just happen a few nights ago. Saturday night, because one of the places I have social anxiety still is our church, which is horrible because I want to be there. But I was up all night to where I couldn't go to the service. I was like I only fell asleep right before. So that's still there, but my faith is telling me that God's gonna heal that over time too.
That's awesome.
Because like I said, all the other nights leading up to Saturday night, I was able to go to sleep and stay asleep fairly early.
11-ish.
Well,
Which is early.
Yeah, 11. Whereas before that, it was like 4 or 5. And I mean, my nights got turned to days, and days got turned to nights.
So hard.
So
I love to see how you're all like, I'm just in awe of how this is a family affair, right? And how the boys are really celebrating this with you, and clearly your biggest fans. And I love is it Asher?
Yeah.
Yeah, how you said, wow, like my dad just went out and went to the store without me or without us. And that's just how great that must make your dad feel really good too, right? And then to know that because he wants this so much for the family. So I'm just in awe of how healthy that is, that you are all in this together.
yeah.
I think even when it was hard, but we couldn't sweep it under the rug and pretend nothing was happening. So we'd have to try to talk about it. And then how do you talk about it and still help them to love and honor their father who's having a hard time and it's coming out ugly on them? How do you help them with that? And so it's really important for us to really talk about and point out and help them realize the changes and the differences too. So they can process that stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Karish, you said you had a list that you had made. What other things have you guys had? Because I mean, outside of the fact that I'm gonna go in this call and go curl up in a ball and cry because I'm so excited for you guys. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is everything I know when we set out to do this. And obviously any startup business is very, very challenging and we go through a lot, but I think for Nicole and I, we were standing in an airport and looked at each other and said, we're doing this. Like, we've got to find ways to bring hope and healing to more people. And when we did that, obviously it all looks exciting to see it, but to really see it is just incredibly rewarding to us. So I just want to say thank you for sharing what you have, but I'd love to hear more about what you had written there.
Yeah. So like Asher said, he's been a lot less reactive, but less irritable, especially about little things. More willing to say yes to things. All right, Bubba. Much less rigid about things happening the way he thinks they should or expects them to, so he's more flexible. He's been able to recognize. So, like, part of being stuck in that mode is you don't know, like, is this the PTSD or is this a habit? Like, you can't even discern between the two. So now he's more able to think through things and figure out what's been a habit that he can now address, and is hopeful about addressing them and changing them, and more able to take full responsibility for his actions, and, like I said, more emotionally safe. And yeah, just seems more hopeful that the change he's desperately wanted for a long time is possible and is actually taking place.
And you mentioned just, some things may happen, slowly over time. And we hear that time and time again where people are hopeful, yet like, is this going to happen? Is this going to get better? And we're seeing patients that are 2 and 3 and 4 weeks just beginning to realize relief. And so that's exciting to know. And so we started this call where you were like slow and steady, right? Kind of, and the tortoise or the hare. And I just immediately thought slow is better than no. And it
Yeah.
definitely is. Feels like was, is more effective that way. And, and I heard a patient said to me, you know what, my car still squeaks, my house is still a mess. But how I'm responding to those things is the difference, and that sounds like the case, right? It doesn't take away some of the stressors, but how we respond to them. And Jim, obviously the way that you're processing things is what is such a really, it's you said slow, but gosh, it's only been a couple of weeks and there's a long list. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and Jim, for those, if anybody goes back and watches this and doesn't understand your history or where you came from, just remind us why you wanted to get the NSR treatment and what your hope was.
I wanted to get secured for my family quality of life that we weren't able to experience or enjoy. I was hoping, my hope was that there would just be a all-encompassing path to healing, and like what the procedure says in the title, reset. My actual expectation was that things would just be reset, and I was expecting things, so I have high expectations for myself. So having not lived and functioned and operated at a high level like I used to, I was and still am very expectant of things to happen quickly. So I'm not let down. However, my hope and expectation was absolutely, and still is, this reset's just going to continue to be ongoing, helping us secure our future.
Yeah, so I think one thing to always remember is that the process of what's happened is you've reset your sympathetic nerve, and it allows those nerve endings that have been firing for many, many years to start to heal. So healing takes time. And so allowing yourself the time in like getting good rest, meditation, talking through things, not responding like you did, not getting yourself all wound up will only increase that healing. So you're doing all the right things to continue that healing journey. And so you're going to continue to notice things over and over that sometimes you won't even notice until somebody tells you. So I think I was sharing with you guys that my son-in-law like called me 4 months later and he said, I looked down and I have nails. I didn't bite my nails, but I didn't realize that I hadn't bitten them in 4 months. And so it was like, even though you don't realize you're no longer doing it, you may not know you're no longer doing it because it was such a habit that you don't even realize you're not doing anymore. So I look forward to hearing about some of those things that have changed for you. But is there anything that you've been like going along and then you're like, wait a second? Well, kind of like you said this morning at breakfast, you didn't even realize you had done it. But is there anything that has been shocking to you that you've all of a sudden realized, you know, afterward you did something that you normally wouldn't have done?
Not only, well, yeah, something something happened kind of, it was funny to me, but to my family, they were like, are we on eggshells now? So I bent over and had the freezer door open. This was just a couple days ago. And I stood up full speed and smashed my head into the freezer door. And in the past, I probably would have like roared out in pain and discomfort. But all that crossed through my mind was, wow, that really hurt. And my family was able to just go, oh, okay, daddy's okay. And it kind of shocked me afterwards, like, man, I didn't erupt at something so trivial, even in the moment it didn't seem trivial because it was really painful. But yeah, just, and then I just have an overall this desire to smile and be happy more.
I love it. Asher, how did that feel when that happened with dad and he didn't like blow up on you with the freezer door?
I'm like, whoa, that's something unusual. Daddy's been blowing up a lot and stuff like that. He's really getting control. I'm loving this.
Yeah, he
You
did
loving it.
actually
I
say,
actually said something out loud.
yeah.
I'm
Which
like
was-
so shocked. I'm like, oh.
He's like, wow, in the past, Daddy would have gotten really mad. And we're like, I didn't even know it had happened until he told me because I wasn't looking. Yeah. I was like, you actually hit your head that hard on the freezer. Wow, that is a big difference. Yeah.
Jim, do you have anything else written down that you wanted to share on your notes?
No, I wanted to wait a few weeks and hear you guys to hear mostly from my family because I wanted to leave it all in God's hands and whatever they observed they're going to tell you the truest tell of all. So yeah, me, what do you want to say about Bubby?
Go ahead, man.
Okay, go ahead if you want to say anything.
You say it in my ear and I'll tell them.
But I'm really encouraged that we get to experience each other in a more like we've just been spending more time together and more of a setting of peace and not being so like I had a special forces guy I was training in corrections as a corrections officer tell me, man, you got like adrenaline flowing at all times. And I was like, I do. And it's like constant. You're like constantly on. And it never crossed my mind. And I was like, so just I've noticed I'm like not on edge hardly at all ever anymore. I just so I'll think about it here or there will cross my mind. Wow, I'm not on edge about anything. So that's a huge takeaway that I have. One of the biggest ones.
I think
It has to be pretty peaceful to feel that way.
Yeah, to not have constant thoughts swarming my mind of negativity and hopelessness, but the opposite. And then to not be on edge all the time, but actually like hopeful and positive and optimistic.
Yeah. And I think people think a lot about the person who's suffering, dealing with being on edge, and they don't realize how that can affect the people closest to them too. So it's really profound for everybody that's not going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, Chris, when you were in the center, we talked a little bit about the secondary PTSD and the trauma that comes from that, that it is as critical as the person that's experienced it, because you're living in a constant state of hypervigilance. Just as the boys have said, is what's going to happen? Is dad going to blow up? Is this going to happen? Will he go shopping with us today? You know, living with the hope and the disappointment on both sides, right? Of hoping that dad'll go, and then the disappointment, but then seeing dad go. I mean, as Asher said, how exciting that is to see dad actually go out of the house and do some shopping, even without you guys. And so the secondary PTSD is so critical, and we know that it affects everybody in the house and people around you. So, you know, that was the one reason I think I shared with you that we give the discount for first responders and military and correction officers, spouses and children as well, because we know how much that impacts everybody.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you guys being willing to share that, because it's really important to be able to involve the kids and everybody talk through it. And now you guys can see the hope and healing that's out there for your dad, and you can feel better about everything. So let me ask you this, Jim, if somebody was considering getting the NSR treatment, what would you share with them?
Without hesitation, just without hesitation, do it. It's life changing. Like we truly are all hopeful and greatly encouraged that we have our life back and are continually getting more and more back. What it ought to have been. So don't, without hesitation, do it.
Run, that's what I say. Run, get it done.
Don't walk.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine called me that heard about it. She's been struggling with doing EMDR treatment and talk therapy and everything. And she called me and she's like, I'm scheduling my flight today. When's the fastest you can get me in? Because as she saw the hope and healing that so many people have had so far, just the power in that. And by you sharing that with all of us, it allows us to kind of give that same hope and healing to other people that are very interested in finding the same peace of mind that you've had. But just remember, you're continuing to heal. So this isn't, you know, you get that immediate response. And I know you felt some up front, but really what happens is over time. But it's also important you remember that you have learned behavior. So regardless of whether or not you're feeling it, some of that is just habit. And so some of it is reminding yourself that you don't need to respond that way, that it doesn't need to be that same way. And so some people catch themselves and be like, I don't even feel angry, but I felt like I should have been angry, but I don't feel like it. And so it's changing that perception and knowing that you have a different way to handle something.
That's
So-
that. When you brought that up, that actually crossed my mind. That has happened several times in the last 3 weeks. So in hindsight, having, like you said, only having been 3 weeks, a lot has really happened. Just 3 weeks. So yeah, if anyone's on the fence about whether to get it, and only 3 weeks, our life has drastically changed as a family, and it's only getting better.
All right, we're gonna go curl up in balls and cry now.
What? Ball. Curl up a little ball.
All right, any last thoughts from you guys, Carice or Asher? Or... No?
Did you have something you wanted to say about that?
I think it's interesting and pretty special that yesterday was Father's Day, and it was probably the best Father's Day. And the cards the boys made for him were just precious, and we had a really good meal and basically spent the day laughing and just being together. I got him a joke book for Father's Day, and we just it was just a great day. They want to.
Come here, Mom.
You wanna show us the cards?
Malcolm wants to show you the cards that we made.
Well, I want to show you the inside. I don't know if you can see this, but it's actually Jim bending over and hugging Malachi. I mean, they're pretty amazing stick figures. It says, I love you. You are an awesome daddy, and don't say otherwise. You're the best.
He isn't when we say he's the best dad.
He's like, no, I'm not sometimes.
And that's what
I've said that in the past, but it hasn't crossed my mind once in the last 3 weeks to say anything negative.
and it has his favorite.
So repeat that for me. I don't think I followed that. So when they would say you're the best dad, you would then turn around and say, no, I'm not.
He's
Yeah.
like, no, I'm not really the best. He'd say stuff like that.
No, I'm
That's why I wrote that.
I was very aware of all my shortcomings, and
Interesting. So when you read that or when you heard that, your instinct wasn't to just change it and say, no, I'm not. You actually
Right.
accepted it?
Yeah.
Wow.
and his picture was also us standing on a horizon with the sun right there,
Right in between their legs.
and that meant a lot to me.
Hmm.
What about this one,
And
Bill?
then Asher's. I don't know if you can see that.
That's us bending over laughing so hard we have to bend.
And hold our stomachs and heartily laugh.
Wow.
That's just what's coming back.
Yeah, I love that. Jim would really struggle with, they must hate me. I'm terrible. And like, no, in their hearts, they love you. They love you so much. And then that was their heart coming out in those Father's Day cards. And I was like, and he was able to accept that this is their heart toward me.
And we made him back scratchers.
I got a couple back scratchers.
Where are
Oh,
they?
in a
guys,
deck.
I'm so happy for you as a family. I mean, I know Nicole and I am speaking for both of us. Well, everybody at Reset. I mean, just watching you, and I'm sure when Erase PTSD sees what they have done to
Yeah.
help somebody like you guys, it just amazing.
Means the world to us. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We're so grateful.
This is definitely, it's a perfect example how, the treatment for one person spreads so far. It will spread not just of the four of you, but well beyond that. And,
Yeah.
Breaking something that could have been a cycle.
Yeah.
Really, really, truly.
Mhm. It's pretty awesome. You all are an awesome unit. Thank you for sharing this.
So we need to schedule in 3 more weeks our time together and see what all has happened. But
yeah.
thank you guys so much. Just email me again, Jim, when you guys are ready to talk, and
Sure.
we'll definitely, and anything that we can do for you, or if you have any friends or family interested that Nicole or I can talk to, we'd love to do that. We just appreciate you guys so much.
Been sharing the links. I think I told you guys at the end of April, we lost a massage therapist to suicide at work.
Oh,
There are others in the office, who have had other traumas in their life. But so I mentioned it to them, and they're like, oh, it sounds like something I need. I was like, that's why I'm sharing it with you. So I've been sharing it.
Thank you.
We both have, yeah.
Awesome. Well, we love you guys. Keep in touch with us. Bye, boys. Bye, Malachi. Bye,
You
Ash.
guys too. See you
All
soon.
right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.